Hey guys, welcome to the newest episode. I have here in the studio, I've got the dream team. I've got DJ Kyber over here, and then because she refuses to actually take a broadcast name, I have the lovely Lucy.
Hey.
Hey, actually, that works. Lovely Lucy.
Yes, we do have the alliteration. Well, I was gonna call her Library Lucy or something, but no, it's just Lucy.
I'm not a librarian of any kind. Would not like to mislead people in that direction.
They're not gonna know.
all of our two listeners, which is us two.
No, we have one listener, which is my one friend in North Carolina, who just listens to us. I'm assuming out of pity.
Oh, well, that's helpful.
We have the one listener.
What about from Talk Without Rhythm? Does he listen to this?
Well,
no, he does not.
Nope. Well, now I'm gonna have to go censor that out because you didn't use his screen name.
Oops.
Screen names only, Kyber.
Sorry. I didn't actually...
Is, of course, referring to the great El Goro from the wonderful Talk Without Rhythm podcast, which is really much better than this one. So, like, if you like this one, but not how it sucks, then go listen to Talk Without Rhythm.
Yeah, and especially if you love, like, old, campy, or maybe not so campy horror films.
Well, it's all over the place. Like, he did some, like, legit horror films. I know over every Halloween he does an episode a day with a different horror movie.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I actually helped him out with Blaxploitation Month when we did Welcome Home, Brother Charles and the Slams.
Welcome Home, Brother Charles.
Yeah, did you see? Yeah, did you watch it all the way through?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes. I saw that.
Yeah, okay.
I saw the big, shocking moment. I won't spoil it for you guys because you should watch it.
If you've seen the movie, you know what we're talking about. Because there's really only the one shocking moment in the movie, but it makes an impact.
Yeah. But
we would tell you. I'm gesturing over to Lucy. We would tell you, but that would kind of spoil it. You just have to see it.
Okay.
So
it's on my list.
I can, yeah. Why do I feel like you're never going to watch this movie?
I know. My list is long, and there are actual good movies on it.
Oh, it's a good film.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's all about it's all about a black man who's wronged by the police, and he gets sent to jail, but when he gets out, all he wants to do is just lead a better life, but the system keeps pulling him down.
Oh, I think you told me about this movie in the car, and you told me what the twist was.
Well, shit.
Yeah, yep.
he strangles the guy.
Yeah.
So, there's no other film that gave me this just moment of... There needs to be a word for what was going through my mind.
Bafflement, maybe?
Yeah, I guess, like, bafflement.
Befuddled.
Befuddled, baffled, something.
Some B word.
Yes.
But not the B word.
And it just, like, as soon as I saw it, that happened. And then the rest of the movie played, and I was still thinking about that one moment. I was like...
I'm still thinking about that moment. I close my eyes, and that still happens. Alright, so what have you guys been reading lately?
You can go first.
Oh, I brought my book with me. It's called Smeck for President, and it's the sequel of The True Meaning of Smeck Day.
Home.
Home, the movie by DreamWorks, is called Home. It's based on a book called The True Meaning of Smeck Day. And it's a wonderful children's book that's a comedy about aliens invading Earth and eviler aliens who try to fight the first aliens and the humans who have to defeat both of them.
Here's a fun little fact about that book. The guy that wrote it, he is also very well known as an artist for Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons.
And children's books, like Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich, which was a beloved classic in my home.
I have, it must have been, like, after my time, because I have no memory of Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich.
Me neither.
I'm too old for Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich.
But I'm not too old for Magic the Gathering.
You know what, though? I will read Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich now, because I want to see what Frank would kind of...
Yeah.
Does he make a panini? Like, because
it's a very large sandwich.
Okay.
There's lots of, you know...
Oh, it's a Dagwood. He seems like a Dagwood kind of guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If anyone's going to do... Well, I figure Wolfman will probably have a more impressive sandwich than Frankenstein, though.
Yeah, with kibbles and bits and stuff.
It just has all of the animals on it. All of them.
Alpaca meat.
God, I'm not sure if I could eat an alpaca.
Me
No, I would
neither.
totally eat an alpaca. I want to eat all. I also want to eat all the animals.
I would. I'm a vegetarian, so I wouldn't eat that.
Right. Well, I guess I'm the only one
You're the
who's
only
not a vegetarian.
non-vegetarian here,
I will
yeah.
eat enough meat for the both of you. Don't worry.
Oh,
You're the
well.
only omnivore.
Yes. So what have you been reading lately, Kyber?
Well, let's see. As far as comic books go, I've mostly been reading Earth 2, the New 52 Earth 2, because that, I feel, is the actual rebooted DC. It starts from Golden Age, rather than Silver Age or whatever. It starts from Golden Age, with Jay Garrick and Alan Scott. Anyway, and that one's actually really good. I'm sure DC's going to screw it up sooner or later.
Well, DC's really its own worst enemy.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like the only place DC is doing well right now is the small screen, which is where they've always done
Yes.
well. Arrow's pretty good. Well, I'm not sure if good's the right word for Arrow.
Arrow is very watchable.
I'm not even sure if watchable is the. I'm not sure. Thing is, I have seen every episode of that goddamn show. I might be like one or two behind. I can't tell you if it's a good show.
You did hit the nail on the head when you called it a soap opera.
It was. It's like I kind of want to show it to my sister because she's real big into like the soap opera, teen angsty bullshit things,
Mhm.
and it's kind of the show's kind of meant to bridge the gap between like adult comic nerds and like tween girls.
Well, isn't
So-
like a lot of DC's live action TV on the CW, which is known for like Gilmore Girls?
Gilmore
and-
Girls. Well, I know they had Smallville. My wife, who's seen all the Smallville, we got the first 2 seasons up there.
Yeah,
She's like, yeah, it's basically just the new Smallville, where it's just really sexy men doing kind of superhero things.
I will say this though, the best part of Arrow is Felicity Smoke and Ray Palmer. Ray Palmer shows up later, and he is fantastic.
Well, Felicity's just wonderful. Just any scene with Felicity.
And Oliver is kind of a killjoy because
Felicity's too damn good for Oliver. I know the show keeps wanting to put them together. No, Felicity is too good for Oliver.
she's not too good for Ray Palmer though. The two of them are perfect together.
Maybe I don't
They're
know.
the
This
superhero
nobody's
couple.
good enough for my Felicity. Nobody.
So here's an example of what happened in the latest episode. I'm not going to spoil anything, but Ray kept saying like, "Oh, we should do a superhero team up," and then Oliver's like, "Stop calling it that." I'm like, "Screw you! He's having fun being a superhero."
Well, you know what though? He's got the invincible Iron Man armor.
Yeah.
Now the Atom is now essentially just Iron Man.
Yeah, but except not like an alcoholic or self-absorbed. He's just sort of like a comic book nerd. He's like, I got a suit of armor now.
He's Iron Man without any of the character flaws that made him interesting.
Right. Although he's still fun.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the show Flash? Like that's been going
Yes, Flash. I
Best.
feel like I don't know who's like in charge of it, but I really feel like Flash is somebody getting away with something.
Mhm.
Because like, when they rebooted it with the New 52, DC had a company-wide policy: no fun allowed.
Really?
Pretty
much,
much.
yeah, no fun allowed. And then I don't know. Evidently, Flash, I feel like is just flying under the radar because the main character's fun, and you've got some cool side characters who like to break the fourth wall. And they introduced Firestorm. Fucking Firestorm. You know who Firestorm
I'm
is?
not familiar with Flash in
Fires-
the comics, so no.
Well, Firestorm's a guy from the 70s, and he's got this really weird gimmick of he's 2 people, and then they combine to form one dude named Firestorm.
Like in Steven Universe.
I
Yeah.
don't know enough about Steve.
Sorry.
I vaguely
it's
know
a
Steve.
fusion.
Yeah, basically they combine to form Firestorm, and the fusion is actually part of it because their superpower is nuclear fusion, and they can like fly around, shoot radioactive fire. But that's not the cool part. The cool part is they can actually transmute matter. They can just turn shit into other shit.
That's fantastic.
I know, right? And they put it on the show, and they've got they've got fucking Captain Cold on this show, which, if you read the comics, is basically just Mr. Freeze in a parka without any of the interesting backstory. But the guy that got to play him on the show was, you've seen Supernatural, right?
Mhm.
The brother with the shorter brother.
Okay.
Yeah, the more like the cropped hair.
What?
Yeah.
He's Captain Cold,
That's him?
and he chews the fuck out of every scene he's in. Like, we're talking like Batman and Robin levels of campy. Every scene he's in, and he just hams it up, and you can tell he's just having the time of his goddamn life.
Yeah, he is fantastic. But my favorite part might be Vibe, who's
I-
not known as Vibe.
Have I seen Vibe yet? Like, where did he show up? Like, how did I miss Vibe?
He's not he's not actually Vibe. He's just Cisco. But I'm hoping one day he will turn into Vibe.
I thought Vibe was another guy.
No, it's Francisco Ramon.
Okay. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Francisco is Cisco.
Yeah. So they just call him Cisco. And so the thing I think is great about Flash is that they have Cisco in there. And Cisco is a character that DC was embarrassed about before they started saying, like, Dark Knight was successful, so everything should be Dark Knight. So before everything was gritty and dark, the only time they were like, let's ham it up is when DC Nation was on Cartoon Network.
Where we got like a bunch of really awesome shorts that never went any... Well, I guess we got Teen Titans Go out of it, but I don't really like Teen Titans Go. So.
And even the
don't either, which is kind of disappointing because of the superhero things that I liked when I was a kid. Like, I did not watch as much superhero stuff when I was a kid as you guys did, but I did watch Teen Titans. And Teen Titans was great.
Teen Titans was great.
Go was like too far. It's like too much of a joke. They don't flesh out any of the characters because it's just a bunch of gags.
Well, I feel like I'd be okay with a bunch of gags, and I'm not opposed to fun. I love the original Teen Titans, but to me, like the best parts were the character development and when they got serious and when they were doing arcs. Those were the best parts of the show. And the parts I didn't like were like the crazy, over the top, like kind of anime moments that didn't. Those were the ones that didn't work, and they made a whole show out of the things that didn't work for me. And I feel like they could even make it work as a comedy. It just they have to pace it. It's just rapid fire joke after joke after joke, and there's really not enough time for any of them to like be absorbed. It's noise, and they don't give you enough time to really like absorb anything.
And the other sad part about that is Teen Titans Go, I think, is the only kid-friendly thing DC has now.
Yeah, if you go on their website, they have like one of their 4 Batmans is supposedly PG, so like kids can read it. But I don't know which one it is.
Which, once again, you have 4 You don't need 4 Batman titles. I feel like that's too much. We've had enough Batman. Like, once again, I love Batman. I absolutely love Batman. I feel like DC needs to pull back on the Batman. When he's got 4 simultaneous books running, that's too much.
Whereas I think Marvel is actually doing a really good job in terms of their kid-friendly content for comics.
Absolutely.
In terms of their kid-friendly content for comics, I started reading Ms. Marvel, and I would not hesitate to give that to, like, a 5th grader or someone at that reading level. Even though Ms. Marvel is, dealing with teenage girl issues as well as saving the world, she also... There's nothing in that book that I feel like, oh, this is inappropriate for someone who's not a teenager.
And the teen problems aren't like teen pregnancy or hard drugs or anything like that.
Right.
Yet.
I like how she is right now. She's adorkable.
She is. I'm only like 5 issues in because I borrowed them from a friend, but I absolutely love Miss Marvel.
She wrote fan fiction.
Yes, I think that's my favorite part about her. She wrote Avengers fan fiction.
Yeah, and she paired up Wolverine with Storm or something like that. And
I thought it was like Wolverine and Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel.
Oh, well, that could be it. And the best part is when she actually met Wolverine, she was like, "I love you. I wrote a fan fiction about you, and it got 2nd place on this website." And Wolverine was just like, I don't care about it. Wait, what was number 1? Oh, it was...
What? No, really?
Yeah, and the worst part is, she said, oh, yeah, it was a slash fic with Jean Grey and Cyclops.
Oh, like, that's salt in the wound.
Well,
that's salt in the wound.
It just got worse. Yes.
Crap, I need to go catch up on that. So going from, like, fun stuff to kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, still within Marvel, though, is I actually just finished Daredevil.
Oh,
the new Netflix series. Yeah. I just wrapped it up like a couple hours ago.
Alright. I haven't seen it yet.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
I never read much of him in the comics. He was just kind of that one guy who sometimes shows up in Spider-Man for me, because that was all I really read as a kid. But no, they did really well. There's really no weak link in the show.
Nice.
I don't know actor names. I'm not like Goro where I can just rattle off a bunch of actor names. I know none of these.
I know one of the actors, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, he's the guy who plays Kingpin, which Kingpin is actually one of the better characters in the show. Because they flesh him out quite a bit, where they give him a backstory where, basically was abused by his father, and they give him this character of, he's evil. Like, he's pure evil, but he's doing it all so that he can basically rebuild the city as something better.
Right.
He's one of those, like, ends justify the means kind of characters.
Machiavelli.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching it as well, but I only watch it with my dad because my dad, in the 70s, read Daredevil. That was his comic. That was, like, his brothers would get, my uncles would get, like, Green Lantern or Fantastic Four, things like that. My dad, he was the one who got Daredevil. So, that's his superhero. And it's really nice to watch it with him.
Okay.
It's really gory, though. It's very graphic.
Well, it doesn't get... Well, there's some beatdowns that get pretty graphic.
There's a guy who gets his head squished in by a car door.
I think that's as graphic as it gets, though.
Yeah.
That's about, like, if you can handle that,
Yeah.
then you should be able to get through it.
I mean, the thing about, like, gore and stuff is, like, for me, it all depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on certain days, it's like, oh yeah, I can totally watch, like, a slasher horror movie if I want to. But other days, it's like, not my jam, not gonna happen, not what I'm ready to watch, you know? So, it depends.
Okay. Yeah, like, there's a fair amount of blood, but it's not tonally dissonant from the rest of the show. Like, it's also dark that when stuff like that does happen, it's not like that. It's not, like, shock factor too much.
Right. I think that's what, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Super with Rainn Wilson.
I need to watch that.
I did not like that at all because I thought it was going to be funny, and it was funny and then interspersed with a lot of violence that was, like, not cartoonish violence, but, like, very realistic
Like, kind
violence.
of like a Kick-Ass type thing?
No, because Kick-Ass was funny. Like, this was, like, it was kind of like Kick-Ass, except, like, you know, there's, like, 3 different rape sequences in Super.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah.
At least one is a dream sequence, and then other 2 is, like, one is a woman raping a man, and one is a villain raping the main protagonist's girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
And,
so it's that kind of movie.
And it's, like, this, and it just is, like, that part is, I don't think that's supposed to be funny, but it's, like, okay, but if you're gonna have random parts that aren't funny, that are gonna be super dark and super violent, then what are you getting at? What's your point? Are you just trying to shock people? Because I don't enjoy that. You know, that's not fun.
Right, because it's... I feel like rape... I'm kind of sick of seeing it for the most part, unless... It's basically... It's... Alan Moore did it for Watchmen, and he implied it in Killing Joke. And ever since he did that, it's kind of been crappy writer shorthand for shit just got real. And that's all it's been. And it just... I don't like to see it.
Yeah, same here. But the best part of Super was the fake comic book character. It was like Captain Christian, played by Nathan Fillion.
Right. There was like a very religious. Yeah. That's okay. So when I was a kid, I was, you know, raised in a, and I'm still Christian, but I was raised in a very Christian home, and I think, you know, there is an actual superhero character for kids called Bible Man.
Yeah.
And
I know that.
He is...
Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh.
Please.
I got this just for you, Kyber.
Sam's getting us...
Oh, no.
Oh, my God, Bible Man.
Bible Man on DVD.
Yes.
We watched these in Sunday school, and he always defeats the bad guy by quoting Bible verses at them, and it makes them realize they're wrong. And then they repent.
I saw another movie with Willie Ames, however that's pronounced, Willie Ames in it, and it was called, it was a Blue Lagoon ripoff. He was, you know, he got naked with another teenage girl while they were stranded on an island. It's essentially the plot.
Strangely enough, they don't put that on his credit on the box, and here it's starring William Ames of 8 is Enough and Charles in Charge. So evidently they did not want to add that bit to his filmography on this particular...
Well, I don't think he was particularly proud of it because it really was just a Blue Lagoon ripoff. With, I want to say it was either Phoebe Cates or Mila Jovovich. Jovovich? The chick from Resident Evil.
Yeah, that one.
She was in one of those movies, but I can't remember if it was Blue Lagoon 2 or this one, whatever it was.
Yeah. So next episode, Bible Man?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
This is a blast from the past that I did not want to happen again. I will have to.
Did
give
I
you
just
some,
trigger
some
PTSD?
Some Sunday school commentary that we got after each episode. We had to discuss this movie. We had, and yeah, I will try to remember some of the great insights from my classmates.
This is some pretty epic box art, though.
Yeah, but that'll sell really well for all the people out there listening to the podcast. I'm sure Daredevil will really get a kick out of that box art. Those are actually two of my favorite gags in Daredevil, because he's one of those characters where they do the same thing they do with Toph on Airbender, where they're so competent that other characters forget they're blind.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's one bit where he's trying to patch somebody up, and he's got his nurse friend on the phone trying to walk him through it, and just, no, you can't do that. It's not like the movies. He just goes, I don't really go to see movies very much anymore. And then there's another bit where someone picks up and waves a newspaper in his face. And it takes him about 10 seconds to realize that he can't see the stuff on the front. Yay, blind gags.
I mean, that was like one of the things I appreciated actually in The Last Airbender was that Toph, like, it wasn't just like, oh, she's not really blind because she has this superpower that makes up for it, basically. It's like, it still affected her a lot. Like, she's, in her society, she's illiterate because there's no Braille in ancient,
right,
airbending land. Whatever Earth Kingdom, ancient, it's not. So, there's a lot of things that she actually misses out on because of being blind, and it's not just like, what's a TV trope? Cursed with awesome.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, there's no downside to this problem, this problem.
Yeah, there's like that, and then we're supposed to hang the posters, and she hangs them like backwards and upside down. She goes, let's go with Sokka. Alright, so we're just a little bit past the 20-minute mark, so you want to dive into Welcome to Tranquility?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to admit that I did not really read all of it.
You didn't read all... Am I the only one who read it all the way through?
I just didn't like it.
You guys are the worst co-hosts ever. Because you didn't finish it, and you didn't finish it. And you're only just telling me now that you didn't finish it.
I wanted you to think I was a good person, and I'm not.
I no longer think you're a good person.
Well, at least I was upfront about how I didn't read the whole thing.
Like, that was the dream, was to get the two of you, because you're like the most fun nerds I know, get you on talking about one of my favorite books to come out in years, and the awesome, and you both let me down.
Yeah, so
I'm really sorry, Sam.
I was thinking about doing a segue from the Firestorm. Did you know Gail Simone wrote the original New 52 Firestorm?
Don't try and deflect, Kyber.
Okay.
You don't get to just pass that off. I'm mad at you now.
Alright. What? I told you up front.
Why are you mad at him? He's the one who, at the beginning of, today...
You both didn't finish it!
Okay. So, I read the first trade paperback. It was awesome.
Of two trade paperbacks.
Yes. First of two, and I got, over halfway through the second one. I got to the point where the thing happens, and I can't say it because
spoilers. Did you finish the first volume?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, we just make this episode the first volume, and then at another point you can come back on with me and do the second volume, so that way we'll just focus on what's on the first volume.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna go grab it so I can remember where exactly it leaves off.
I brought it. So, for those of you who don't know, Welcome to Tranquility is a story about basically a neighborhood that has a bunch of retired superheroes from Golden and Silver Age.
Well, yeah, it's retirement community for superheroes. You got throwbacks from here, mostly going back to World War II, where there's Colonel Cragg, who's very much like a G.I. Joe type of character. Sergeant Rock, Minxie Millions, who's meant to be kind of like a little Orphan Annie / Richie Rich hybrid. There's one guy who's basically Captain Marvel, where he said the magic word and he got superpowers, but he got a head injury, and he can't remember the word, so he just wanders around town all day just reading dictionaries aloud to himself, trying to find the word again.
But my favorite part of that was actually the scene where he's playing chess with his arch nemesis, and the two of them are retired. They hold no bitterness toward each other, but they're just playing chess because the evil guy, the skull.
Henry Haight.
Henry Haight. Yeah.
Henry Haight.
He said, I think that you're the only actual friend I have. And I was like, wow, that's pretty profound.
Okay, so so spoiler free right now before they go on any further, because it's largely a mystery story, so there's definitely going to be spoilers. So I'd say it's one of my favorite books. I actually bought this thing twice because I downloaded it all digitally because they were having a sale, and I thought I'll just read like this first issue, and then I had finished the entire series in about a day. I got so into it, and then I went out and bought the physical copies so that I could lend them to people, because it broke my heart that I could not share Welcome to Tranquility with anybody. I've probably read this through like 3 times, so very high recommendation from me, very high recommendation from Kyber, but not so high from Lucy.
It just didn't, whatever, I think, it relies on someone who's really invested in the tropes of superheroes, because I think it plays on that a lot, and I guess the characters didn't really grab me as much as other characters in other Gail Simone books have, and I don't know why that was. It's hard for me to really analyze, like, what I didn't like, because it wasn't, like, any particular thing where it's like, well, I didn't like this aspect of that character. It was just, like, it all felt kind of flat to me. But obviously there's things that you guys are picking up on that really resonated with you, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. So if this sounds good to you, if you like the comic history, or if you just like Gail Simone, usually just Gail Simone in general, which I don't know how you could not like Gail Simone in general. Right. If you do, we have a problem, and stop listening to the podcast. I think less of you as a person. I don't want you listening anymore if you don't like Gail Simone.
Exactly. I love Gail Simone.
Yeah.
Loved her work on, she's done Wonder Woman, Batgirl,
Secret Six.
Secret Six, yes.
Secret Six is probably my favorite book that she did. Then she did a bunch of work for Birds of Prey.
That was fun.
Agent X.
That's right, yeah. Agent
Never
X,
seen
the
that one.
other Deadpool.
Oh, yeah, basically she did a Deadpool book. She did a Deadpool run on Marvel.
Oh,
It's not technically Deadpool, but he's essentially Deadpool because...
He's like a clone of him or something?
Well, didn't she do actual Deadpool, too, at some point?
I'm not sure. And then she did Red Sonja, though. I do know she did Red
Oh,
Sonja.
that's right, yeah.
And
You've got the
going.
subscription to Red Sonja, and then I steal your Red Sonja.
And she just started Red Sonja and Conan, which she's co-writing with,
Rob Liefeld?
No.
That would be one. I would have to read that out of
yes.
morbid curiosity.
Well, there is a lot of love for... Well, is love the right word for Rob Liefeld on this podcast?
There's some appreciation.
Yes.
Maybe, because we don't like Rob Liefeld for just straight up angry...
We don't like his work,
meathead.
but it's just too juvenile, but oddly sincere to hate.
Right. It's just, I don't know, something weird about him.
Yeah.
He seems like a pretty cool guy, though. He seems like a 13-year-old that... Like,
he is. He's a hyper 13-year-old in a man's body. And that is Rob Liefeld.
He created Deadpool. He just didn't create Deadpool.
He just didn't make fun Deadpool.
Right. He made a copy of Deathstroke.
Right, because he wanted to write Deathstroke for DC, and they wouldn't let him, so instead of being able to write the book he wanted to about the sword and gun-wielding mercenary named Slade Wilson, he wrote a story about a sword and gun-toting mercenary named Wade Wilson, which is totally different.
Yeah, so... Red Sonja, Gail Simone absolutely kills it with Red Sonja. She is fantastic. Like, she's a badass. Just straight up badass.
I think one of my favorite line from Red Sonja at this point, though, is she's Randy. She's been out in the wilderness and she hasn't had any in a while, and she rescues this effeminate chef for plot reasons. And she tries to seduce him. He's like, well, what if you're not my type? And she just goes, I'm Red Sonja. I'm everybody's type.
That was awesome, that entire scene. Because he was, like, super resistant, and she was just getting more and more pissed. But through that entire story arc, her sexual frustration just builds and builds and builds, and it's really funny. And oh yeah, they also make jokes about how she hasn't bathed. Yeah, because she's out in the wilderness. She has a time limit. She's on like a deadline to find these 7 people or 6. And, yes, and so she doesn't have time to actually bathe or whatever. But yeah, that her Gail Simone's run on Red Sonja, which is still going on, is absolutely fantastic. Everyone out there should go out and read it. Dynamite is a heavily underrated comic imprint. Now back to
We're shooting back to Welcome to Tranquility, the one volume that you two did read.
Yes. So,
all right. So they've had the spoiler tags. I think I can't really pick a favorite character because I love them all. The one that always stands out to me though is the emoticon.
Yeah. I like him.
Where his gimmick is he's basically this gangster type guy, but he has a face mask that just, whenever his emotion changes, it's just electronic, and it moves it to whatever the appropriate emoticon is.
Right.
Yeah, it's colon, and then, like, open bracket, close bracket.
Yeah, like...
Right, it's literally like a text emoticon. It's not even like an emoji. It's
no.
like the keyboard...
Was this before emojis?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was... emojis are, like, one of the last year or two, right?
Yeah, they're annoying already.
I don't use emojis. Copyright 2006, so well before emojis.
Yes, emojis are annoying me already. Because, like, when I go on Twitter, there's some people that I don't even subscribe to that will just bombard their entire screen with emojis. Be like, having fun in Paris! Emoji, 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 emoji. It's just so annoying. But anyways, welcome to Tranquility, though. Yeah, I like the emoticon. I liked Minxie, but my favorite would probably be Zeke the zombie.
Zeke the zombie, he actually gets a lot more character development in the second novel. Yeah. But in the meantime, he's pretty fun. He's basically just a zombie gravedigger.
He's the crypt keeper.
He's the crypt keeper. But then, I'm going to spoil a little bit for the next one, because it's not too much, is that you find out that before he was a zombie, he was basically just on track to be the next Elvis.
Oh.
Yeah, where he was a pop singer named Ezekiel, and he did, like, all this rock stuff, and then shenanigans happened, and then he became a zombie. And now he's stuck in that graveyard forever.
That's unfortunate.
That is.
Well, yeah, he's also stuck there with his awesome pet, Hamnet, which is a giant boa constrictor.
Yeah, Hamnet.
That has these adorable little expressions whenever he gets happy, you see Hamnet perk up. Whenever he's upset, you see Hamnet sort of sad and comforting him. Hamnet's awesome.
So what do you think this particular series does that's different than normal superhero comics that are maybe like self-parodies?
I feel like it's very much love letter as parody here, because Gail Simone's really good at, like, you can feel like she genuinely loves all of these things. And she's not just, talking them up. There's actually enough heart in these characters that they can stand on their own and they kind of transcend just being the parody that they were meant to be.
I think, I really don't know if I've heard of this concept before, of, like, a bunch of retired superheroes living in the same community. That's a really unique concept in and of itself, and the way they execute it, I think, is pretty well done. It reminds me of Watchmen, but not, like, overly so.
It's like if Watchmen could have fun and wasn't all the terrifying things Alan Moore does with everything he writes.
Right.
Love you, Alan Moore, but you terrify me.
I mean, Watchmen was really different. Watchmen is, like, very dystopian, and this is more within the genre, I think, of superheroes.
Yeah, so, I wanted to add this little thing. Alan Moore, actually, in person, is supposed to be very cute. Like,
really?
Very cute old man. He called Neil Gaiman Neil Scary Trousers Gaiman once, because he got a little bit squeamish about this whole blood scene he was explaining. He was like, well, there goes Neil Scary Trousers Gaiman.
Well, at this point, I'm still not convinced that Neil Gaiman is actually mortal. I'm pretty sure he just gets on his robe of stars and just teleports himself places. And because
he's in so many places.
He is we're at one point there was talk of bringing him to Kent for the Kent Comic Fest.
Right, that
because who's that one illustrator who always works?
P. Craig Russell.
P. Craig Russell. That's right. Because he's local, and it was like, well, maybe Neil Gaiman can come to the Comic Fest and couch surf over at P. Craig Russell's house. I thought, I can't imagine Neil Gaiman couch surfing.
By the way, found out something real interesting. My sister's best friend from high school, and before that, my sister's best friend from when she was little, her family is friends with P. Craig Russell. And I did not know this until after, I got a picture with him. And she called Cassie. She said, my sister, Cassie, she called her and said, why is Mr. Russell in a picture with Kyle? Yeah, so.
That was fun, and every time I talk to Alan Harold, which is not often, because he stopped returning my calls, he's like, we're not gonna have another fest. That was too hard, and we can't get back together. Except he doesn't want to say that. So he's like, it'll happen later. Please stop pestering me.
Oh.
But how else are we going to get to hang out with Durf?
Right.
Durf. Back Durf.
When can we hang out with Durf again? Because he's always a barrel of laughs.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, God. Okay, Durf, for anyone who doesn't know, another local comic creator did My Friend Dahmer, because he went to school with the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, and he wrote an entire comic about just going to high school with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very engaging read, so if you haven't read it, by all means go read My Friend Dahmer.
But Durf himself is not super friendly.
No?
No.
I wouldn't know. I didn't hang out with the guy. He signed my comic, and, he just seemed really cool.
Well, the thing is, my dad I found out later on, my dad also went to school with this guy.
Ah. Okay.
So,
I know he came to Roosevelt once to give a talk about this graphic novel that he did, or graphic memoir, and he was kind of antagonistic to the student questions. And I just remember feeling, I wasn't there, but my understanding from my friends who were there was this is weird. Where does it, one person asked him, do you feel like this is exploitative in any way of someone who's at a vulnerable time in their life, or do you think, is it fair or something like that? And he just got super defensive. He didn't even want to explain his rationale. He was just no, this is of course he's very entitled attitude. Of course I can tell the story, but he didn't want to and I can see someone justifying that and that being fine, but just his why would you even ask that? Oh, okay.
I wrote a comic book. Did you write a comic book? No.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. Did not know that about him.
What was the one writer who I just made an ass of myself in front of? Because I remember it was the guy who did Wonder Woman, and not only did I act because because I remember that because he signed the thing, and we just you pay for the actual book and then he'll sign it, and he signed the thing, and then that was the moment Kyber met Jill Thompson and turned into a 7-year-old fangirl, and it was the cutest thing ever. And I was like, oh my god, I have to go see this, and I ran off, I forgot to pay for it. Right. And when I came back to apologize, I had my camera around my neck, and I had, the flash was pointing, it would have been pointing upwards, so that when it was around my neck, it was pointing forwards, and I bumped the shutter, and I shot the flash right in his face.
Oh no.
And I just apologized. I think I gave him an extra 5 and just left. It's I'm so sorry. I'm gonna go now.
Right.
I'm sure, comic book writers and artists and stuff, that is probably not even close to the worst experience they've had with fans. If you go on Jonan Vasquez's blog...
Oh god, Jonan Vasquez.
Yeah, he said there are a lot of people that just create this image of Jonan Vasquez in their minds before they actually meet him. And then they're like, oh yeah, you hate your fans from Invader Zim. He's like, no, why would I hate my fans? And then they're like, no, you hate your fans. Like, I don't hate my fans at all.
It's
No,
cool.
you
I kind of hate the fans, so...
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the thing is, I love Invader Zim. I watched every episode. Once again, I don't rewatch or reread stuff often.
Mhm.
I've seen Zim all the way through at least 2 or 3 times.
Mm.
I've watched it as a kid, and then watched it. It came out when I was in like 6th grade. I watched it then. I watched it again in high school. I've watched it a couple times. Like every once in a while, I'll blow up an episode on Netflix as an adult. I love Zim. I hate Zim's fans.
Mm.
Where it's just like, is they all try to do the Gur impression. First of all, you can't do the Gur impression. Stop. Second of all, Gur was funny because he was annoying as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Without any context, you're just making a character, you're just doing a poor imitation of someone who's annoying as fuck and being infinitely more annoying.
Mm.
Yeah, there's this one, like, someone went on 4chan, I guess, and decided to go onto B, which was random, and then they had their own idea of what random meant. So then she posted this long thing saying, like, I'm a big fan of Invader Zim, LOL, Taki Munkos. Eating funny, nailing oatmeal to the wall, sort of stupid stuff. And now this girl is, like, posted all over the internet, and people are saying, where is she? Who is this person?
The internet just...
Although, that could be a troll. Like, it is
A lot of-
4chan.
A lot of
It
people
doesn't
thought
sound
so
like
too.
for real.
I just
Except-
assume everybody on 4chan is a troll. Like, I don't go there because it just, I can't deal with 4chan.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that too, but then they discovered her profile on Gaia.
Oh,
Of
wow.
course she has a Gaia profile.
The
Of
penguin,
course.
Penguin of Doom is what her name
Yeah.
was.
Well, no, it's... But yeah, anyway, just
I mean, the thing
fans drove me away from... it's a miracle I still like Invader Zim after hanging out with other Invader Zim fans.
it is interesting that you mentioned randomness, though, because, not to put on my intellectual hat when it comes to
Which you are
comedy,
actually wearing your hat,
It
which
is-
is fairly intellectual.
It's a blue fedora with a pink stripe.
It's actually a trilby.
Oh, okay.
Most people
Um,
can't tell the difference. Because trilbies are in, but everyone calls them fedoras.
Okay. Well, this was at Target in the ladies section, so you know. Anyway, but you know, I recently discovered a blog that is Dadaist children's jokes. I don't know if you ever had that conversation with a small child who is trying to figure out jokes for the first time, and they understand the structure of jokes, but they don't understand the content of jokes.
Uh-huh.
And so they will set up a joke, and then their punchline won't make any sense.
Because
And-
we had that whole conversation with Dadaism last time.
Right. But it is so funny, at least to me, because I think the best comedy is about surprise. You don't expect what's gonna happen. And so I think that's why people get the idea in their head, like, oh, randomness, that's funny because it's surprising, it's unexpected. But it's not funny if your version of randomness, first of all, is incoherent.
Uh-huh.
Or if it's not actually random. A lot of the so-called random things that people do are things that are part of that internet culture, that are this, like, narwhal. Like, that...
I do love narwhals.
Okay, but, like, that... They're gonna say narwhal, they're not gonna say, like, you know, Fibonacci sequence. It's and just saying random words isn't funny, but it is funny in a certain context because it embraces... It's funny if you don't expect it because there's this element of surprise that I think makes comedy very successful.
Well, that's the thing is, it takes a lot of care to make something look like it's completely random. It takes a lot of, like, care and comedic timing, and it takes a lot of work to make it look like it's just completely spontaneous.
Mm-hmm. Unless it is really genuinely, like with the children's Dada jokes, because they genuinely are at a mental level where they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's really funny, but it's not funny for the reasons they think it's funny.
So, yeah, no, I agree with you, though. Those are hilarious.
I'm going to definitely have to look up Dadaist children's jokes.
And I think all of the all comedy, like even comedy that's like satire or parody, it's based on, if not direct surprise, it's based on subverting expectations.
Yes.
Right,
And-
yeah. Go on.
No, that
So, like, one of my favorite jokes from Futurama was when they were like trapped underground, And then there was this giant worm that was approaching them, and the professor said something like, "Oh no, it's an albino humping worm." And then Fry said, "Why do they call it that?" And then you just saw the ship go boom, 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 boom. And then the professor said, "Because it has no pigmentation." So, that did subvert my expectations, but it was a coherent response. He was responding, "Yeah, why do they call it an albino humping worm? Because
it has no pigment.
Right,
it's albino. It has no pigment.
So, when they do that, when it's not completely taking your expectations and farting into the stratosphere, when it's just like taking your expectations and then shifting it into another room or something, if you understand what I'm trying to say, that is true comedy.
Cyanide Happiness is really good with that, because almost every strip of Cyanide Happiness is it's building towards, you think it's building towards a thing, and then it just totally skull fucks what you think it's going to be by the end. And we get some really dark, you get some really fucking dark Cyanide Happiness.
But I found Cyanide and Happiness. There's a Cyanide and Happiness comic generator where they mix and match panels from Cyanide and Happiness, and it makes just as much sense as the constructed panels by Chris Wilson. So
I need to see that. I gotta check that out.
So anyway, let's back to the book.
Okay.
Alright,
Because I'm gonna be the killjoy. You're just gonna keep. We are gonna talk about this comic.
Do you have a question about the comic?
No, I really like this comic.
Also, Tommy is the main character. I absolutely love her. And the plot pretty much starts when this one suave James Bond-like mystery guy gets murdered in a diner, and they're trying to figure out who did it. Who done it? Yeah, and Tommy, she's just
She's
awesome.
a town sheriff.
Yes, she's a town sheriff. Her deputy, Presley, is also just awesome. It's almost like she's a superhero and Presley's her sidekick, but, you know,
you get a really interesting relationship dynamic, because Presley's a good deal older than she is, and he was actually police chief when she was a kid. And I'm not sure if that's the first one or the second, but, you know, you see her get in trouble a lot, and so...
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah, so Presley has to basically just deal with her shit. And then we get some character development from him, because he, a few years ago, back when he was police chief, found someone who was pretty sure was guilty of killing his... found a suspect who he thought was guilty of killing his wife and daughter. Both the wife and daughter were dead, and he just basically interrogated this guy until he cracked, and the guy hung himself in a cell. And then he found out later on the guy was innocent.
Oh, wow.
And so that's something that still burdens him. That's why he's not chief anymore, and that's why he had Tommy kind of take his place. And so you see that interesting dynamic of how he's still guilt-ridden from all that, but he still respects Tommy enough to listen to her, even though he had that place of authority, so he's much more willing to relinquish it at that point.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it really is. Like, the two of them are a fantastic sidekick superhero. It really feels like that sometimes, because she takes initiative. She's high authority, and she fights for the side of good. And Presley knows she's like this powerful badass.
No actual superpowers, though. Right,
no actual superpowers, but he knows she's this authoritative badass. I'm sure Gail Simone realized she was basically showing a real life superhero, as compared to, in a community of actual superheroes. And
go ahead.
But Presley just like follows her orders. Not really. I don't think he ever really questions them, because he knows that what she's doing is the right thing.
Well, I think it's almost best encapsulated when they're both like on a stakeout, and he refers to her as sheriff, and says, you can just call me by my first name. She says, I could, but I ain't gonna. He will always refer to her with that title, because he respects her so much. And it's Gail Simone just does such a great job of writing these characters, and so the best part of any Gail Simone book is just watching how her characters interact. And there's a bunch of, it's a bunch of small interactions are what make the book good. Like, we mentioned that there was, Maximum Man who can't remember the magic word, and then he hangs out with Henry Haight. And then there's another situation kind of like that where it's Captain Cobra and Mongoose Man who live on either side of a fence from each other, and they used to be arch enemies during World War II, and now it's just like one gets upset because one has an apple tree and an apple will fall in the other's yard. It's like, I'm gonna go put a slice on this with some apple pie with some cheese. No.
I remember.
And it's just them just being angry old people at each other. And then there's that, and then you get the interactions where a lot of them have teenage grandchildren now. And many of them have superpowers, but they all became just like these emo punk goth kids.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
That was... I didn't like those kids until later on in the book. But I thought, like, this is angsty. Can't believe she would write this in here. But then I realized...
She makes some bounce back eventually, though, because there's one girl who she's got super speed, and then we find out that she's pregnant, and, she tries to kill herself, and, she's in the hospital... And then her boyfriend, who's also like this superpowered goth guy, just kind of an asshole, wants to go see her. Mother doesn't want him to see him, so they wind up breaking into the hospital to try to get her out. It's like him and then a bunch of other. I think they call themselves the Liberty Snots.
And I was like, wow, I just hope someone teaches these kids a lesson. Hopefully, Tommy teaches these kids a lesson. But I guess, should I spoil what happens?
Well, we already threw up a spoiler tag, so...
Oh, true, okay.
So we're assuming either they don't care enough to read the book, or that they have heeded our warning and stopped the podcast, and gone and read them and come back to it.
Right.
I mean, really, we only have, like, the one listener anyway, so...
So, I think... Yeah, so what happens is, he shows up, and then it reveals that he's... I'm trying to remember how it goes, but like he reveals that he just wanted to see her, to tell her that, that he's there for her. He didn't want to actually like take her out of the hospital, just wanted to see her.
Yeah. And then we find out, though, she's probably the most tragic character of the story, though, because we find out that she had a very deep connection with, what's his name, the detective, like Mr. Gentleman.
Mr.
Articulate.
Articulate.
Mr. Articulate. The gentleman mystery solver who was killed, so she had a really close relationship with him, but then she also had a close relationship with Colonel Cragg, who we find out by the end of the book is actually the one who murdered him. And she saw the whole thing go down, even though she had the power to stop it, she was just so frozen by indecision that she didn't do anything, because she cared about them both so much and just couldn't compute what was happening, and she just let it happen. And, the sheriff figures this all out by the end and basically just tells her, the worst thing I can do to you is just make you live with that guilt for the rest of your life.
So, yeah, and the reason... I can't remember what Mr. Articulate wanted to do, but they were trying to... they were trying to keep this Fountain of Youth a secret. There was this tiny trickle of water underneath...
Oh, hold on. We're going to back up a little bit. Because that's one of the things, we find out that a lot of these people are from the 40s, but it was written in 2006, so they should be old as dirt by now, but they're basically, they only look like they're, like, in their 50s, some of them as much as their 60s. So when you actually stop to think about it, the timeline of how old they are versus how old they should be doesn't quite mesh. And then that's actually a plot point later on where you find out that the Fountain of Youth is actually under the town.
Okay.
And they've been putting water from the fountain into the drinking supply.
Oh, great.
And so now that's how they're all as young as they are.
Yeah. So that's what Colonel
Cragg,
he was trying to keep it a secret. And I guess Mr. Articulate was trying to...
He figured it out. Yeah, he was going to tell everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then there was also that news crew that keeps showing up. They found, first the paparazzo found out about it, and then he died. And then the news crew, I believe, found out about it, and the cameraman died, the
reporter did not.
Right. She was going to die because of the mayor, what's his name?
Judge Fury.
Judge Fury. He was about to kill her, but they got rescued by Maximum Man, who discovered that his arch nemesis Henry Haight actually remembered the word.
And it really is a sweet scene because, well, there's a scene with the two of them earlier on where Maximum Man just says to Henry Hate, like, if you knew the word, would you tell me? And Henry Hates as well. You're my only friend at this point. What do I have to lose by not telling you? And so and then once shit hits the fan, Hate just pulls him close and just whispers the word in his ear, and then he's got this one tear of happiness, and it's really touching.
Yeah, that's every superhero arch nemesis should have some sort of relationship like that. Not everyone, but
all of them. I want to see Lex and Superman playing old people chess someday.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever read the webcomic Strong Female Protagonist.
No.
I've heard of it.
I really like it, and it kind of takes the idea, okay, so what happens in this comic is, everyone who was conceived in a certain month, in a certain geographic area, this, like, space radiation cloud happens, and it gives them all superpowers, and all their superpowers activate when they're 15.
Okay.
And it tries to be fairly realistic in the effects of what would happen if suddenly there were superheroes. And it takes place years later when they're all, like, in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship between Allison, the main character, who was formerly Mega Girl, but she decided she didn't want to be a superhero anymore. She wanted to just go to college and be a relatively normal person. And the former supervillain who tried to take over the world when he was 14, Patrick, who can read people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And in the current arc, they both decided to quit at the same time because they both stumbled upon some broader conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they decided to kind of furtively work together. And their relationship is very interesting because, on the one hand, they are friends, and in a personal level, they really like each other. But ideologically, they are so different. Like, he has this very utilitarian, almost sociopathic view of other people. Like, the ends justify the means to the extreme. And she's very, almost pacifistic. One of the reasons she stopped being a superhero is because she didn't want to be violent anymore. And it's so hard for her to reconcile her liking of her friend, or even her love of her friend, with the knowledge that deep down he might actually be evil on a fundamental level, even though he stopped doing supervillain stuff and now he's just like a weapons designer.
Which is still kind of evil.
Right. And that's kind of his point. He's like, just because I stopped trying to take over the world doesn't mean I'm still going to do things that you disapprove of, and I'm not looking for your approval, I'm looking for your friendship. And I think that's really hard to navigate, and it's something I think that often doesn't get looked into when we look at supervillains in comics that become humanized and that become relatable. Do you just ignore the fact that they've done a bunch of evil things and that on some level they do want to do evil, or is that just something that, you move on from?
That does sound like a really cool... it's a webcomic?
Mm-hmm.
Just add that to the giant list of webcomics I need to read.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on TV Tropes, I think is where I first saw it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I gotta head out now.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I thought you still had more time.
I have to work at 5.
Oh, crap, okay. Well, I guess that's time.
That
so,
is the end.
final thoughts?
That was a good show.
I was gonna say, you guys can continue without.
I don't have anything more to say about Welcome to Tranquility.
Alright, so there we go. Most disappointed I've ever been in the two of you.
I'm so sorry,
Cut
bro.
on the radio forever.
Sorry.
Alright, so there you go. Catch you guys later.
Okay.
Later.
I'm actually not gonna stand up. I can stand up if you want me to, but I don't know where I'm going. Have fun, Kyle.
Thanks.